What would have happened if Mufasa would have survived falling into that ravine? How would Simba, Scar, and the rest of the Pride Lands have changed if after the stampede, the true king would have risen again? Hello fun people, I'm Isaac, and today we're going to be fully exploring this scenario. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the fun Disney topics I discuss, make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell if you're new. In this dramatic moment in The Lion King, Mufasa's younger brother Scar took his revenge against him. In the aftermath, Mufasa's son Simba must face his deceased father before he is run out of his home, which results in Scar taking over Pride Rock, only to later be dethroned by that grown lion many years later. This is what transpired, but how would all of this history have been altered if Mufasa wouldn't have died? This is what has been consuming my mind recently. While thinking too much about Frozen 2, I also just wanted to go through all of the scenarios that were running through my head that I knew we needed to discuss. Now, since Simba was the one who was the first in the gorge after Mufasa's fall, since he saw it take place, my first thought was that this would have been Simba's chance to learn the truth as to what happened to his father. It's possible that in that encounter, Mufasa could have warned him of the betrayal he'd experienced from Scar, in hopes of preparing him to carry this information to the rest of the Pride. If Mufasa would have died after telling him that, and hopefully that he loved him as well, maybe Simba could have ran to Pride Rock to prepare the lionesses for the war that Scar was bringing with him. My only fear about that situation though is that Simba was still trapped in that trench, and as we saw from his encounter with the hyenas in the elephant graveyard, I fear that if Simba, who remember would now be the rightful king, attempted to go and return home, he would not have made it. It's possible Scar's line could have reigned and continued with Kovu as the Pride Lands were slowly destroyed. That's just kind of the dramatic way every possibility continues when Scar kills Simba and Mufasa. He just gets everything he wants and everyone suffers because of it. If Simba was able to tell the truth to the lionesses though, let's say he makes it all the way back home, I think a battle would have erupted similarly to what happened when Simba returned as an adult, because I don't think Scar would have been willing to wait any longer to take over. I believe he'd be ready to fight because Scar knew that once he had revealed his true nature to the world, that this was his last chance to take what he deemed was rightfully his. In my opinion, at this point, Scar would have never stopped until he was either ruling or dead.
The choice is yours, Scar. Either step down or fight.
I could see hyenas and lionesses clashing in an epic and violent way as they fought for the throne. But again, I would be fearful for Simba's life. I'm sure Sarabi and many of the other lionesses would watch over her son and their king, but I would be concerned if Scar went after him specifically. And maybe in the warfare without an adult Simba and Nala, they could have lost, but honestly, I think the lionesses would have a fighting chance since they had not endured the starvation and suffering that they had when Simba took the throne, and they were able to kick hyena booty just fine then. So maybe it's possible that the lionesses would have been able to ward off the hyenas and Scar's revenge with the knowledge that Scar did not deserve and did not have the right to rule over Pride Rock. If Mufasa's words to Simba could have guided the lionesses to face Scar, I think they would have won. But what would have happened if Mufasa would have been able to live long enough to confront Scar again? I think that if Mufasa would have still been breathing when Scar came over him and still had Simba close, I would be a little conflicted as to what might happen next. A part of me thinks Scar might have been enraged and slashed at him to finally kill him. I mean, I think he would have been devastated in anger to see his brother breathing, but I think that would have ruined his plan. If Mufasa would have been covered in lion markings, the lionesses could have known that Scar had contributed to the death of the king. And that's the same reason I think Scar didn't kill Simba in the Gulch, which is an idea I fully explained in a previous video I've linked down below. I honestly think that it's more likely that Scar would have kept Mufasa and Simba together, probably telling Simba that Zazu was getting help or something like that until the hyenas arrived, and at that point, I think they would have been ripped apart.
Kill him.
Regardless of whether Mufasa sent Simba away or not, I think that if they had to face Scar and the hyenas, I don't see them winning that conflict. To survive, I think Simba would have had to retreat to Pride Rock, but I think Mufasa would have been killed. But you know what I think is the most exciting possibility? What if Scar and Mufasa finally had their challenge in the Gulch?
He's that a challenge?
We all know that in normal conditions, Scar wouldn't dream of challenging Mufasa, but at the bottom of the ravine, when Mufasa was wounded, broken, and struggling to survive, suddenly the fight may have become more interesting, and maybe that would have drawn Scar to challenge the king. Or it's possible that after realizing that his brother needed to be stopped, Mufasa called upon his brother to clash. I believe if Mufasa rose from the dirt, they could have fought. And this is when I think Mufasa would have had to have been at his bravest. With the stakes at an all-time high, since Scar winning the challenge would actually make him the legitimate king, I keep picturing the fight would be filled with roars and furious attacks back and forth like when Simba and Scar fought on top of Pride Rock. Mufasa may have been stronger and more powerful at his peak, but here Scar could have been much quicker, attacking with cheap shots, going after his weaknesses and wounds, just like he actually did against Simba. Imagine what it would be like in the ravine if slowly over time it became filled with hyenas, with Simba scared on the side as they came to watch the battle between the brothers. I would hope if Mufasa was able to get up that he would be able to land some hard tears at Scar that would frighten his brother, since we do know that deep down Scar was scared of Mufasa, as we saw when he mistook Simba for his older brother.
Mufasa, no, you're dead.
Maybe with some of Mufasa's might still within him, we could have seen this amazing fight between them be played out. And I believe if Mufasa had the great kings of the past guiding him, he might have even been able to win. I think it's possible if Mufasa hadn't been as horribly injured from the fall in the wildebeest, he would be able to put Scar back down to his knees as he had been alluded to do in the past. And I think if that would have occurred after all of Scar's treachery, I believe Mufasa would have likely banished his brother. I just don't think he would have killed his own brother unless he felt he had to in order to keep his kingdom or his son safe. For example, if Scar laid in the gulch and warned Mufasa that he would work with the hyenas and never stop till Pride Rock was his, then I could see Mufasa regrettably executing Scar after he had experienced the evil his brother was truly capable of.
Simba, please have mercy, I beg you.
You don't deserve to live.
In these scenarios where Mufasa lives and Scar is defeated, I think the Pride Lands could have avoided the rule of Scar and the destruction that it brought. But while I would have preferred this to occur, for Mufasa to continue to reign, I don't think it would have been a likely possibility. I believe Scar's resourcefulness and rage aren't easily stopped in a fight, which is why I think Mufasa having any injuries would have made him susceptible to losing the challenge. While I would always want Mufasa to rise victorious, in this case I don't think a fall and taking a stampede like that could have, even in the best scenario, kept him in fantastic conditions going into fighting Scar. So maybe the challenge would have gone in the other way, where Scar would have taken Pride Rock for himself. With that victory, Scar wouldn't have even needed to kill Simba. In all honesty, it probably would have been advantageous to keep the cub alive so he could tell the other lionesses what had occurred. And maybe if he no longer needed Simba dead, Scar might have built upon his relationship with Simba, molding him into a servant to his uncle. But definitely let me know down in the comments what you think would have happened if Scar did attempt to raise Simba, and if you would like a whole discussion about that in the future, because I think that could be a fun and fascinating concept to explore. Of course though, if Scar did win the challenge and become king, I also think it's likely he would not want the previous successor alive, which would be similar to the culling of cubs in the wild when new male leaders arise. Maybe that opportunity to alter Simba's path may have never occurred, since he would feel the need to destroy the cub, which would have allowed him to force the lionesses to submit to his army of hyenas and his rule, just like what happened in the true story.
We shall rise to greet the dawning of a new era in a great and glorious future.
Unfortunately, in my opinion, I think in most of the situations that followed Mufasa surviving the fall and the stampede, there's a slim chance that he would ever have been able to leave alive. Sure, I think there are situations where the lionesses would have fought back against the hyenas, or Mufasa would rise above Scar, which would have allowed the rightful king to continue to protect the Pride Lands, but I think in most situations, Scar was going to take Pride Rock. No matter what though, I believe there would have continued to be violence, defeats, and death until it was decided who would rule Pride Rock. But let me know down below what your thoughts and theories are surrounding Mufasa surviving his fall. Also make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.